Wow. Boy, I'm happy with the static mix. Sounds amazing. All right, so now it's time to put the plugins. What what did I do wrong? This sounds ridiculous. Jesus Christ. God damn. Is this happening to you still today? I felt like that in the first 2 years, 5 years back. And I do have a solution for you. Keep on watching. We'll get there. We'll open up a session and I'll show you what I do. All right, so we are in the session of this song that I've recorded. And yes, plugins are wonderful, but they can get you in trouble if you don't use them properly. So, the first thing that I want you to understand is that you need to learn the plugins. I'm not saying that you're going through all your plugins and you're taking the time to learn them all, because if you're in a situation like me, you've got many plugins and it's hard for you to really understand how each plugin actually works. So you do have a good static mix, you're happy with it, and now you're ready to implement some plugins, and you want to make this song more powerful. You want the low end to be present. You want the high end to be present. You also want the high mids and low mids to be where they belong. But it's very easy to screw that up. And if you're not familiar with the plugins, this will happen. And I'm not, what I want to emphasize is about grab a bunch of familiar plugins that you often use when you're mixing and take the time to learn them more. So when you do get in a situation where your brain tells you to do something, what your brain is hearing something, and you know exactly which plugin to pull out to give you your satisfaction. So let's jump in. This, I already started mixing this song. Well, actually, at today, this song is fully mixed. But I am going to show you what I do, and it works pretty well for me. So it's baby steps. Each plugin that you add should be baby steps. For example, in this song, I've got a saxophone track. This saxophone track is already mixed because when we recorded it, I wanted to give my wife a feeling of how this saxophone track could sound. And so the reverb is already in, and I've got some compressor, got some saturation on this track, and I've got some tape emulation going on also. So let's have a listen right now, and I'll explain to you what I do. Now, the first thing that I do normally, I will mix the drum kit and I will mix the bass afterwards. So when you do mix your drum kit, there's basically three elements that you need to watch for: the kick drum, the snare, and the overheads, because most of the time they will give you these cymbals and a big part of the hi-hat, and then you got the rooms, and you might have some leak. They also provide you some information, but mainly the overheads will give you the cymbals. So let's press play, and right now I've got the drum kit very dry. So you heard that I implemented a Neve 1073 plugin preamp, which I love for drums. It's an incredible plugin, and you didn't feel that much of a difference. It gave just a little bit more low end kick drum snare, and then I added this plugin, which I love. That's tape emulation. This one really brought up the bottom end and the snare drum. If you listen again to it, I'm gonna disable it. Now it's on. So you can see that it actually just gave a bit of character to your drum kit. And in this type of song, you don't want to go crazy. It's not like a rock song where the bass drum needs to hit like this, and the snare drum to be like the 1980s, where it's very dark and very whooshy with some reverb. You don't want that. You have to adjust, and you have to adapt to the music you're actually mixing. Now, you can eerily see that the bass is very weak. It's present, but it's not there. In this type of song, this bass line needs to be present in the mix. So I'll turn on the plugins one at a time while it's playing, so that you can really hear the difference between this dry signal to the finished product with all the plugins that I selected. Yes, you're gonna feel a bit of gain, but most likely it's because it's the bottom end that gets boosted up. And it's not gain, it's just that it's more there. Because I'm giving you saturation, I'm giving it compressor. Compressor, if it's well adjusted, will actually give you more bottom end. So let's press play, and I'll turn them on one at a time. Now we have a preamp on, which is the Neve. And I'm turning on a compressor. You must agree that we sensed a little bit more feeling of gain, but it's not really gain. Now I'm gonna give it saturation. Now this plugin I adopted, so I know how to control it, and it really makes a difference when it's properly used. And I'm finishing with an EQ where I'm cutting around 200 and I'm boosting around 1300 just to give that higher notes some feeling and to be able to hear them. So I'm going to turn it on. So like you can see, if you take the time to learn your plugins and you know what they do, when you put them on and you adjust them properly, you shouldn't see a big difference. It's all subtle movements to bring the song to a tone you like. And same thing here with the perks. I've got some perks going on here. I'm using a SSL channel strip that I love because it's got, well, the Neve also has an EQ, but this one's a little bit more detailed, and it's got a compressor on board, which sometimes you only need this plugin to actually achieve what you want. So I'm going to turn it on, and you'll see a difference in the perks. It's got some... so that's what it is. Now you're going to say, oh, it's very subtle. Yes, it is subtle. You don't want to go extreme, and stop trying to learn or to go with plugins. Let's say you want to do something. Oh, I'm going to try this plugin. I'm going to try this plugin. I'm going to try this plugin. It's a never-ending story. You'll end up with the mix you heard previously at the beginning of this video, and you're going to be scratching your head and trying to find out, what did I do wrong? Because you did something. Some plugins are not working for you. They're working against you. So you have to use them the proper way. And I'll show you how this song sounds today, fully mixed. All right, so this song is fully mixed. It's ready to rock and roll. It's ready for mastering. And I must add that on the master output, I always put a tape emulator for saturation and some color. I like to give my song some color, and this actually gives a very nice analog color that I love. And it's all about pleasing your brain. And my brain likes the analog world. I've got a compressor set up that it barely moves. And I've got the other tape emulator that I always put at the end of my mastering chain. That's not a master, but on the master bus. That really, really makes a difference in the quality of your track. And I'll even demonstrate what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to go here. So remember that this is a fully mixed version. I'm going to turn on this plugin. Back off. Back on. So at the end of my static mix, I was quite pleased on how this song was sounding, to a point that I almost just put the tape emulator on the master output, a compressor, and maybe just listen to it and say, maybe I don't need to add anything else. it doesn't mean you have a track that you need to put a compressor on it or you need to put an EQ on it. Listen to it. Take the time to listen. Analyze your track and listen to it in the mix. Because if you're listening to it in solo and you don't like how it sounds, maybe it sounds great in the mix. So don't do that. I've done that so many times when I started 5 years ago, to a point that got me really frustrated, and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to quit, but I didn't quit because I'm not a quitter. Another fun fact that I must share with you if you want to have a great mix, because at my beginning stage, I ran into this issue so freaking many times, it's not even funny. I always put a limiter at the end when I'm doing a mix. And once in a while, I will turn it on and see how my mix likes to have a 6 dB boost. So many times where I didn't do that, I would bounce the song, I would go into a mastering session, and I would start to play around with the EQ. Maybe you could put a compressor. Remember, it was at my beginning. I didn't technically know what I was doing. And put a compressor, put this here, put this there. And it sounded horrible. First of all, when I put the limiter on, most of the time my voice had some very serious high frequency where a de-esser was needed, first of all, and everything was out of whack because it was out of whack. At low volume, it sounded okay. It sounded good, I guess, because I went to the mastering session. But once the limiter was on, oh my God. So just for this, for a kick of this, what I'm saying right now, I am going to lower down the volume and I'm going to kick that. I'm going to turn on this limiter and make you hear how it sounds with it on. So doing this really helps me to get a better master. So when I bounce it and I bring it into my mastering session, I've got a cleaner mix. Another tip that I'll give you right away, well, it's not a tip. It's technically what I do, which works pretty good for me. If you see on my mastering bus right here, I don't have an EQ. Why? Because I make sure that my mix to be balanced level-wise, I want the frequencies to be balanced. So if it is well balanced, technically I should not need an EQ to make sure it sounds beautiful before it goes to the mastering stage. That's my line of thought. I know a lot of guys are using an EQ on the line out, and that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. If you're doing that and that works for you, good. You need to use the tools that work. So I'm not doing it. And as you can hear, unless you don't agree with my mix and my balance, that's fine. We're all different. But for me, in my brain and in my ears, this sounds beautiful. And I know when I get to the mastering stage, I won't have much to do, maybe except for whitening the stereo image. Maybe, I don't even know if I need to bump the low end. I don't know. I'll see when I get there. But it's really important to use the tools you know. going back to the plugins, using the tools you know. If you look at all the plugins that I've got on this session, they're all tools that I know. I took the time to learn them. And I would say with everything that's on this session, I can actually mix probably 100% of all the mixes. So if you have a big library of plugins, great for you. Some plugins are great because they do something different that others don't. But take the time to learn it. And when you have a mix where you feel, oh, maybe that plugin, that ABC plugin, oh, that would sound great on this track. Well, you go get it, you know how to use it, and you use it, and you get great results. All right, so if you like content like this, suggest that you subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Ring the bell to get notified. And you can go on my website at homestudiologic.com /8-step mix and get my guide, which explains to you how I do my mixes, and I always get exciting and great results. Until then, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching this video.